Hi, this is David Mastio, California editor for the Center Square, and this is California in Focus. As always, I'm joined by Kenneth Schrupp, a California reporter for the Center Square. Today we're talking about the California budget. What's the bad news, Kenneth?
The Legislative Analyst Office, which is a nonpartisan office that's part of the California government, estimates that if spending remains unchanged, the state is going to have a $26 billion revenue shortfall for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
How much worse could it get?
It could get a lot worse. We have an estimate now that they say we're going to have another $19.1 billion shortfall for 23-24 and a $13.3 billion shortfall for 24-25. But these are just medium case scenarios. There's a worst case scenario in which that $58 billion shortfall over the next 3 years actually becomes a $103.4 billion shortfall, which means that if cuts aren't achieved, the state could be in very perilous financial footing.
What will the governor and the legislature have to do to address it?
They have a few options. They can increase taxes, which are already extremely high in California, or they can cut spending. But this is a balancing act where raising taxes is sure to upset voters on the consumer side, while cutting spending is going to really dig into some of the governor's core constituencies, such as public sector unions.
Why did this happen?
The main driver of this phenomenon is that the state is entering recession, if we're going to be completely honest, and that the state has some of the most volatile incomes of any state in the country because of how its tax system is structured. While there are very high taxes paid by the middle class relative to other states, a significant part of the state's income does come from the taxing of capital gains, which are largely from IPOs of tech companies that are based out of Northern California. Without a good environment for issuing new IPOs, there aren't a lot of sales of shares, and we're starting to see revenue from capital gains taxes crater. We also have highest income people who do pay the highest portion of the state's very progressive income tax. You're paying over 50% effective tax rate in California for if you're a high income earner. Those people are leaving the state in droves. We're losing the people at the very top end of the spectrum, middle income payers, and the slow bleed out to other states is costing us massive parts of our tax base.
Who do Republicans blame?
Well, Republicans do blame the party that has been in power for decades here in California. Democrats have expanded state spending by $116 billion over the last 6 years. That's according to State Senator Roger Niello, who said this in a public statement. And that's a nearly doubling of the general fund budget in a very short time. You can't double spending in just a few years and expect there to be no consequences.
In reading your coverage of the potential that we're in a recession, I read about the SAM recession indicator. What is that?
The Legislative Analyst Office did say that the SAM recession indicator has been triggered for California. This indicator identifies the start of a recession when the 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate rises by half a percentage point or more relative to its low during the previous 12 months. So if your unemployment rate goes up, your average unemployment rate over 3 months goes up more than half a point over the lowest point it was in the last year, then it says that you're probably in a recession. And that was triggered in March of 2023. Another aspect, though, that we have to remember is that higher borrowing costs and reduced investment as a result of that are going to really cool an economy, especially in a state where people think that there might not be as much of a future for California, where investment is so costly that people are looking elsewhere for higher returns and safer returns.
California is the largest component of the U.S. economy if you look state by state. If California is in a recession, does that mean the United States is in a recession?
I think due to its focus on technology and responses to the financial markets, that California is more uniquely vulnerable to changes in interest rates. But having said that, it does not seem like many coastal service-dominated economies are doing well in this current environment.
What does the possibility that the state is in a recession and that the state is facing massive budget deficits mean for Governor Gavin Newsom's 2028 hopes?
I think we should first look just at 2024 and what that means for Democrats in California. If Typically during a recession, Democrats like to respond with Keynesian spending, where you have the government pump up spending to respond to decreases in demand and cushion that blow. But we don't have the ability to do anything like that anymore because we just don't have the money anymore. And without being able to do that, people are really going to face the pain. They're going to have no cushion other than dealing with combination of high taxes and high interest rates. But if we are going to look to 2028, what I can say is Newsom is in a very difficult position if California's financial state does not improve. If he does not raise taxes, then he's going to have to make significant cuts to spending. If he doesn't make significant cuts to spending, he's going to have to significantly raise taxes. I mean, both of these are going to be very, very unpopular. Cuts to education are probably where the cuts are going to come from first. And the teachers union is one of the largest mobilizers of votes for the Democratic Party. If he can't find a way to tame spending somehow without upsetting his core constituencies and significantly increasing taxes, then he can look like a responsible steward of the nation's largest economy. But I don't know if he can make that balance happen and make it work. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be hard for him to make the argument that he should be president in 2028.
If I'm remembering our coverage correctly, and if I remember previous recessions correctly, unemployment goes up in a recession, and California's unemployment insurance fund is $20 billion in debt. Is that right?
Yes. And as a reminder, the unemployment insurance fund is entirely paid for by business owners as part of their payroll taxes. And during COVID-19, the state, I believe, issued somewhere around $30 billion in fraudulent unemployment claims because they didn't want to verify anyone's status. They just wanted to get money out the door. And now we see businesses paying for all of these costs because when a state's unemployment insurance fund is in debt and it gets bailed out by the federal government, it automatically is forced to pay higher payroll taxes at a rate that increases each year until the debt has been cleared. And because of these tax increases on payroll, we're going to see even less hiring in California, less people wanting to move jobs here, and that's only going to compound the situation.
I'm David Mastio with the Center Square, and we've been talking with Kenneth Schrupp, a California reporter for the Center Square. You can read his work at thecentersquare.com. Thank you for listening to California in Focus, and please subscribe to our podcast.
Are you tired of news that puts politics over people? At the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation, we believe in putting people over politics by delivering nonpartisan news and audio content that serves you, the American taxpayer. With Franklin News Foundation, you can read fact-based, state-focused news for free at thecentersquare.com. You can listen to civil, balanced conversations between policy experts through our podcast network at americastalking.com. Or you can get in-depth news on K-12 education spending, curriculum, and school safety at chalkboardnews.com. It's all free through Franklin, where we put you, the American taxpayer, first in every story, episode, and conversation. And it's only possible through our supporters. Together, we can produce content that puts people over politics and brings Americans the news they deserve. Become a supporter today at franklinnews.org/donate. Once again, that's franklinnews.org/donate.